Hello and to hell with good lighting and let's embrace imperfect action. My name is Michael Nicks-Erickson, and I would think that a few of you who are tuning in to check out my inaugural video for the Foodivist, a continuing video series on all things food, from laws impacting our food, the nutrition of our food, and who controls or influences what we eat. So think of today's video as an introduction into why food matters. No matter a person's politics, I think it is to our benefit that opposing viewpoints discuss and debate from an equal footing. Discussion forces a deeper understanding of your point of view and even pokes holes in your logic, which can lead to an even deeper understanding or even a pivot. For the past 50 years, the people have lost their footing as it relates to our food and our understanding of food and the control of our food. It was the American essayist Wendell Berry who once said, "Most urban shoppers would tell you that the food is produced on farms, but most of them do not know what farms or what kind of farms, where the farms are, or what knowledge of skills are involved in farming. They apparently have little doubt that farms will continue to produce, but they do not know how or over what obstacles. For them, then, food is pretty much an abstract idea, something they do not know or imagine until it appears on the grocery shelf or on the table." It was the COVID-19 pandemic that illustrated that point to me. It was March 13th, 2020, when I arrived at my grocery store in downtown Kansas City, Missouri. The impacts of COVID were just starting to make themselves known. The night before, Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas had instituted a 9 p.m. closing time for all non essential businesses, and my local school district, all of them districts, had suspended classes for the remainder of the year. All in all, these announcements didn't really affect me that much, but what I saw at their grocery store is what gave me pause. For a reason that I will never truly understand, nearly the entire paper goods aisle was cleared out. I had heard of the run on paper, but I was convinced that my local Kansas Cityans were different. I was wrong. Even the cereal aisle was cleared out. The people went panic shopping. They bought toilet paper, Captain Crunch, and milk for whatever reason. I had my pick of fruits and vegetables, and except for ground beef, the butcher was well stocked. The pandemic also forced me to examine not only my relationship with food, but how those around me interacted with their food. Shocked isn't the right word, but I was surprised by how many people could not find eggs, milk, bread, or meat without having those items displayed on their grocery store shelf or on the grocery store shelf. Initially, this depressed me greatly. I remember having a conversation with a man named Luis Suarez a few years ago before all this, and the story he told me about his mother. She had decided that the most important thing for her sons to know was how to feed themselves. She took them to local markets, taught them how to source their ingredients, and most importantly, how to cook. You may ask yourself why, but according to him, his mother felt that if you couldn't feed yourself, then you could never be an independent person. I met many people who were not able to feed themselves. And while for some people, financial restrictions were in play, for the people that I knew, they just didn't know where to go. There's no point denying that cooking, gardening, and grocery shopping are all kind of falling to the wayside. And we as a population have plenty of time to binge watch some random TV shows, but we can't invest time in deciding what food goes in our bodies. Now, I don't mean to ridicule, but but ultimately, I hope that the last few years have opened our eyes to the importance of knowing the source of our food and the positive effects that nutrition and clean eating have on our everyday health. I hope for change, and if you are watching this, I'm sure that you do too. With all the talk of supply chain issues and the cost of food rising, I started to wonder what would happen if I weren't able to find food. As I was preparing this, I was looking in my kitchen, at my counter and my refrigerator and wondering, would I be able to find, this item or that fruit if it weren't sold at my grocery store? How dependent am I on people I've never met operating a supply chain that I don't understand? And what are their motives? My health or their bottom line? So, while I don't believe those involved in the industrial food system are out to hurt us or make us sick, I find the balancing act between cost and benefit to be troubling. When is a food item healthy enough compared to its cost to produce? When is the profit margin simply too tempting to pass up? We all fall back on the industrial food system fairly regularly. The accessibility and the cost are irresistible to many. Um, how can I tell you, or how can we justify spending $12 for a loaf of bread or $5 for a dozen eggs when there are people struggling to afford $1.48 for a dozen eggs or $2.50 for a loaf of bread, $2.50 for a loaf of bread? Um, I'm going on a slight tangent right now, but I believe that our society does have a responsibility to set a societal safety net that everyone should be able to bounce back from a setback and not be permanently hampered by financial difficulties or health related issues. If you don't have your health, you've got nothing, and a big part of health is nutrition. A bunch of organic kale, carrots, and beets are very nutritious, but unaffordable to many. It's not like our government doesn't have the funds, maybe they don't, to subsidize healthier alternatives. As recently as 2020, our federal government spent $38 billion annually in farm subsidies, with the majority going to just five specific crops: corn, soybeans, wheat, cotton, and rice. Beyond that, since 1997, 75% of federal subsidies have gone to 10% of farms, aka consolidated groups of commodity crop growers. Let's not dive into conspiracy. It can be said that, and I quote, the government subsidizes soda with one hand while the other writes checks to pay for insulin pumps, but the government is after crops that can be stored for a significant amount of time and has a wide range of uses. Those subsidies support state economies and provide food for many people, but is it good food? My definition of good isn't just comparing to fast food and a home cooked meal. 92% of Americans are deficient in at least one mineral or vitamin. This problem extends beyond the food you eat and moves into your food, where your food is grown or raised. Soil degradation plays a considerable role in producing nutrient dense foods. Conventional farming has played a part in stripping the nutrients out of our foods so that almost every kind of food has fallen between 10% and 100% in nutritional value over the past 70 years. An increased focus on biodiversity of the soil, encouraging ground cover, water management, and providing an ideal home for organisms like earthworms is an extremely high level overview of practices that should be introduced. Now, let me just say, we can't ask for nutrient dense food without rethinking our agricultural strategy. Let me be even more blunt. Corporations and government institutions won't change their agricultural, food, or nutrition strategy if the consumer doesn't demand that change. I do think that on some level, this change is occurring. An increasing number of people are starting to notice that those around them, or maybe they themselves, are not all that healthy. Trust continues to decline in our industrial food system, standing at 33% trust in the system, and trust in our health institutions continue to drop. So the CDC is at 54% trust, FDA is at 48% trust, and the National Institute of Health is at 47% trust. Something has to change, but our debate is what and when. Is going full vegan the option? Or what about eating bugs and bug patties, or taxing cow herds? There is a lot at stake, and my goal, and I hope our goal, is not to replace the industrial food system, but to provide an alternative to it. Something we as a community can rely on to nourish our families and support good health. There is a cost to cheap food, and it is my hope that we can inspire corporations to pivot towards healthy foods made with real ingredients, scratch healthy, Let's just hope for real ingredients. If we can achieve that, I hope we can convince our neighbors to form relationships with local farmers and support, their local community and, our local community. I want to thank you for watching this video. Now, I'll be honest with you, I really don't know where this channel will go, but what I do know is that after thinking about all aspects of food for years now, keeping my thoughts to myself is not enough. Hopefully, you and I can start a conversation and work towards change. And until that happens, I'm Michael Nix Erickson. I'll talk to you later.